welcome to another episode of Whoniverse Reviewniverse. This time I'm going to be reviewing E-Space Trilogy box set. This has 3 storylines in it and an overall story arc. It goes over stories 112, 113, and 114. Full Circle, State of Decay, and Warrior's Gate. This is a great story arc. I highly recommend getting this set. It has some key points in the story of the 4th Doctor. Number 1, this is the story arc where Romana, in her 2nd incarnation, leaves Doctor Who. We also see the departure of K9 in this, and we see the introduction of Adric. Very first story in this box set is Full Circle. This is where we pick up Adric, the Doctor's companion, for 2 seasons. Basically, the Doctor and Romana are trying to get back to Gallifrey to take her home, and they cannot do so because something happens with the TARDIS. They shift through time and space and end up in a different universe that they call E-Space. Hence the name of the box set, E-Space Trilogy. This is a great story overall. Like I said, we pick up Adric in this story, and it just has a lot of fun and adventure. It's about a group of people that they're going into hiding underground because they're scared of these creatures that are in the swamp. And these creatures, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but it's a really good and fun story to start off with. There are a couple good extras on this disc. One of them is called All Aboard the Starliner. The Starliner is where they live. It's a spaceship, but it's kind of in this episode, it's kind of an underground city. Nobody remembers how to fly it. Again, I won't get into that too much because I don't want to ruin the storyline for you. But there's also another little featurette about 4 or 5 minutes called K9 in Space. It goes over K9. They're getting ready to get rid of K9 in this at the end of this series, at the end of this story arc. And there's also another thing called Swap Shop, which I guess Swap Shop used to be a TV show in Britain. It seems like a kid's show. It's really an interview with Matthew Waterhouse, who plays Adric, and it's worth watching. It's pretty good. It's only about 8 minutes, so it's not going to waste your time or anything. But it's a pretty good interview, and it's nice to see interviews from back then when this story was airing. Then there's another documentary, a short documentary called E-Space Fact or Fiction. It's about 14 minutes long, and it is seriously one of the best extras on any Doctor Who disc I've ever seen. It really has nothing to do with Doctor Who other than the E-Space having to do with this box set, but it is very interesting as far as astronomy is concerned and space in general. The second story in this box set is State of Decay. Out of the 3 stories, this is not my favorite one. This is my least favorite. However, it's still a great story, not saying anything bad about it. I'm just saying that this is my least favorite out of the 3. It's a vampire story, and I think that has to do with why it's my least favorite. I could really care less about vampires. Even though it's well done as a vampire story, it's another vampire story. At the beginning of this story, the Doctor and Romana don't really know that Adric is stowed away in the TARDIS. He did so later in the previous story, Full Circle. And so at the first of this story, they don't really know he is on the ship. There's a lot of good character development for Adric in this story. It's basically they are flying along trying to figure out how to get out of E-Space. They land on another planet. In this planet, they can only locate one group of civilization. It's a tower, like a castle kind of tower, and a village right next to it. The village has all these people. Everybody knows everybody. So obviously 2 strangers showing up out of nowhere, and later a third when Adric is discovered to be a stowaway, they stand out like a sore thumb. Push comes to shove, the Doctor and Romana find out that the vampires are an old enemy of the Time Lords, thought to have been eradicated. However, they've been hiding away in E-Space. It's a good story, but like I said, it's just not my favorite out of these three. This disc has some good DVD extras. First one is called The Vampire Lovers. It's basically a making of the episode. All three of these discs have a making of featurette. It's about, I think it was 18 to 20 minutes, around there. And there's also a thing called film trims, which is just some of the special effects camera work on two of the scenes that I believe it was two of the scenes. There's also a mini featurette, about 17 minutes, that's called Leaves of Blood, and it's about vampires in literature and the slow evolution of the vampire character in literature. It's kind of interesting. It really has nothing to do with Doctor Who. It's like the first disc's E-Space Fact or Fiction. It really has very little to do with Doctor Who. It's just the theme of the storyline. There's also a documentary on blood and in culture and how blood relates to culture, how it's kind of taboo. It's called The Blood Show. It's about 10 minutes long. Then there's a featurette called The Frayling Reading that has a person named Christopher Frayling going over just about 4 minutes worth of him examining the episode. Then we get to disc number 3, Warrior's Gate. This is a very good story, however, for some it might be really hard to follow. It is a back and forth in time and space kind of story, and it involves shrinking universe and a lot of things like that. It is the final story with Romana. It's the final story with K9. It is, unless you count the 5 Doctors for Romana. Anyway, this is a very good story, and it is a nice closing to Romana leaving and K9 leaving, although it is a sort of sudden thing, and once you watch it you'll realize what I'm saying. It has some really good featurettes on this disc, going over this episode specifically. The Dreaming is the name of the making of little featurette on this disc. I believe that's a really good, thorough making of featurette. Out of the 3, I think that was the best making of featurette. There's also a really good featurette called The Boy with the Golden Star, which is just Matthew Waterhouse, who plays Adric, going over a lot of the episodes he's ever in, even past this into the Peter Davison era, and just really telling his story about each episode. It's really entertaining, and it's about 20 minutes, and it is very informative on his perspective of those storylines. There's another featurette called Lala's Wardrobe, which goes over Lala Ward, who played Romana. It goes over her wardrobe for her entire run on the series. Things that they liked about it, things that they didn't like, and all in retrospect. And there's some good little insights in there about how she dresses like the Doctors. There's also a deleted and extended scenes thing that's only like 4 minutes or something. Each of these discs has commentary on certain episodes and a thing called continuity. Here's the thing, the continuity thing, I was expecting to click on it and watch some featurette about how the continuity was played into each other or anything like that. All it is the intro to the show and the end credits with what was said over it on BBC when it first aired. Things such as see you next week, blah blah blah, next week you'll see part 2 of Full Circle, so on and so forth. However, there is one that's actually pretty interesting where it says if you have any ideas for when Peter Davison is the Doctor, send us your ideas before this whatever date. I thought that was kind of entertaining, but the rest of it I think was very skippable. The rest of the continuity section. There was at one point something about a Madame Tussauds having a Doctor Who exhibit. Which kind of actually plays into it because in the 5 Doctors, Tom Baker didn't want to show up for some reason, and they used a wax statue of him from Madame Tussauds, if I'm remembering correctly. Anyway, it's a great disc set. It's a great story arc, and I highly recommend it. especially for Tom Baker fans. If you're a fan of the Fourth Doctor, pick up this set. See you next time.